All right, I think we're here. So this is Gogo, Coach Gogo for some of you, and I'm presenting as part of the lead up to September strategy. I'm presenting a very special conversation with my former coaching client, a colleague of mine, Peter Brissett. Pete, we've known each other for a few years now. I'm not sure the exact date, at least 7 years.
I'm sure the last date.
Okay. Yeah.
6 years, December 2009.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. December 2009, exactly. And one of the things that I asked Pete to do this video broadcast with me, and he graciously agreed because I think Pete's experience really illustrates the power of the September strategy, the power of taking what you are and what you have that sometimes you may not even realize that you have, and turn that into a platform for momentum, for money. What other sexy M's can I put in there? But it's really it's a great story, and for me, it really illustrates some of the principles that we will be going through step by step in the September strategy program. So, Peter, thank you so much for joining me on this call.
Absolutely, Gogo. It's a pleasure.
I know you don't have as much time as we would have liked, and we'll probably be doing a part two or part two and part three later.
You bet.
But for today, I wanted to talk about your experience with this kind of inner storytelling that I teach to my clients, and you worked with me as I taught some of this to consulting clients as well.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of get a review sort of that first day we met, and what the situation was with you at that time, both personally, professionally, and then just in terms of platform, as someone who is today a platform leader.
Sure. So going back to that time, it's funny right now to kind of sit here and think about going back to that, because it feels like a different lifetime. So, I mean, we're only talking 6 years ago, 2009 at this moment, but it really feels like a lifetime ago, because I feel like where I was and who I was like a completely different person than the person I am today. So it definitely started a journey with a lot of really a lot of things that I could hope for, but had no idea could actually take place. Wasn't sure what that would look like. So, but we actually, before we actually met face to face, we had jumped in. There's an online forum that we were in, and I kind of saw this guy, Gogo. Who is this guy? And he's saying some interesting things, and then I found out you were in Denver, and thought, well, he's a marketing consultant. I'm kind of interested in that space. At the time, I've been a sales guy for the most part for the last 15 or plus years leading up to that point, usually for small businesses. And but I was very interested in the whole marketing side of things, because these small businesses were always, I'd come in, I'd say, hey, I'm the sales guy. Where's the leads? And they would go, there's a phone book. I'm like, wait a minute. Thought I was a sales guy, not a marketing guy, not a lead generator. So I always was working on how do I generate leads as a sales guy. So I'd had some different opportunities to work on that. And, I listened and watched, these different guys, Perry Marshall, who's the really big strategy guy. And I can't think of his name. The ultimate strategy guy.
I don't know. There always seems to be a ton of strategy.
14 different guys. But anyway, and so kind of learning from that standpoint, but not really seeing what I could do with that. And I learned a lot of skills and developed a lot of things, But my big idea, seriously, I remember I could probably pull this up if I dug around my computer a little bit. I bet I still have it. My kind of initial quote unquote business plan, that I would go in and do some consulting with these small businesses and charge them $100, $100. And I thought, if I could go in there and talk to them for like an hour, and if I could do enough of them every day, then I can make some money.
Wow.
At $100 a pop. That was my big idea. So coming across you as a marketing consultant, you were out there promoting yourself as a marketing consultant. You were out there, talking about what you're doing on that standpoint. I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's got some ideas that I can get from him. So when we sat down that first time, I'm pretty sure it was at a Starbucks with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, something like that.
And just talking about, my current situation at the time, working for a company I just started working at as a sales guy, trying to figure out, how do I position myself as an expert for this company in this industry, in this area, and what do we do to do that? And within minutes, it literally was within minutes. You're like, oh, well, this, and I was just like, that was so easy for him. Like, he just, how did he know? I mean, I talked to you for 15 minutes and now all this stuff comes together. I'm like, I don't understand how you do that. But even from that very first meeting, what you work with is frameworks.
Yep.
So that was my first experience to really start looking at frameworks, how a framework helps you take all this chaos and formulate it in ideas that make sense, that can help you move forward. And it happened fast. A framework makes that happen quickly.
Yes.
And so it was a dramatic, I'm gonna get emotional. It is one of the most dramatic experiences I can tell you I've ever had in my life. After that meeting, that moment, it was, when you're really, it's like a journey that, you're looking for something, but you're not necessarily sure what you're looking for. And so that's even more frustrating, because you're like, I know I want success. I know I want to achieve something with my life. Every path I've taken has led me a different way, either between my own mishaps, right, self-inflicted wounds and messing it up, or whatever else out there that's seemed to be against it, of achieving any level of success. I was a sales guy, my base salary of $2,000 a month, and it's like, I have a family. How can I do this? And but that was what was available to me at the moment, in my mindset and what I was doing. That's where I was. So that meeting was dramatic. I really felt like, how you put the frameworks, how you were able to kind of take, here's what you're saying, and here's a different perspective on it. And it was dramatic. I can't even begin to explain the feelings that I had, just the emotion and the, like, wow, what just happened? Like,
the interesting thing about a meeting like that was, for me, when I was looking at you and listening to you as you were describing, you were describing the situation with the company, you were describing the situation with the managers, and because of course I'm operating always with a system framework, I'm looking at the company, I'm asking you to describe what the challenges are, and I'm already seeing why 90% of their salespeople will struggle.
Yeah.
Which is the common mistake that most business owners make anyway. They think it's the person. They're always looking at the individual performer, and I call it the difference between the singular and the systemic, right? Yep. There's a system issue. 90% of the time, there's a system problem that you could fix. In that case, it was their messaging was a mess. It was that the marketing wasn't centralized. So you have salespeople trying to think about strategy and design strategy instead of being, search and destroy type of people.
Right.
And it was all messed up. And then, of course, the feedback loop of jumping right back to blame you, the sales team,
right,
for what's not really.
You guys selling better, like
selling better, but you don't even have a clear marketing message.
I don't know. What am I selling?
But remind me, wasn't this like a $10 million company in terms of revenues?
I can't remember their exact revenues at the moment, but it was decent. And a lot of it was because, they went in, they were very good at buying other companies.
Okay, right.
That was the kind of their CEO's biggest strategy of client acquisition was buy somebody else who had customers.
Sure. Okay.
And then they cherry picked the really big deals, and they went in and they got those deals. They would cut. A salesperson didn't do those deals because they're doing bottom dollar price to get the deal. So it looked good it looked good as a good client, right? Oh, we do this for, I think Botanic Gardens was one of their Denver Botanic Gardens was one of their clients where they're doing all this stuff for. High profile client, they bottom dollar it, right? So they get in the door and brag about it, but that's not the real world of day-to-day operations.
You're not a VP, you're not a CEO for business development. You have to just go find a fresh new client, prospect, and then walk them through with a clear marketing message,
right?
Which is modeled, and then get paid on the basis of whether that performs or doesn't perform.
Right. Yeah. So it was definitely a struggle at that, but the bigger struggle at that moment was at that point that I was really ready to dig into this whole side of marketing. I had learned quite a lot, way more than I realized. And because I was questioning everything that they said, that was a new thing for me. Like I would never, previous to that, and especially, after meeting you and in our conversations, I would never have questioned what the company said. Right. But I at least had learned enough, even if I didn't realize it, to go, this doesn't seem right. There seems to be something off with this, and I should probably say something. So, which was classic because there was like a 2-page flyer that they had written up, and I guess the CEO had done it. So I made a bunch of corrections on it, and I took it into the VP of sales at Gogo. All right. It was like a red letter edition of the Bible, right? And these were the words of Jesus that I just changed. And it was like I committed heresy and blasphemy, and
all together.
I was going straight to hell at that point. And the look on the VP's face was like, you realize, he tells me, you realize the CEO wrote this. And I was like, well, I had no idea, but I think it could be better. What's it? It just, I at least knew enough. I didn't, I'm sure I didn't handle it well, but anyway, I knew enough that it wasn't right. Like, this is not, I can't sell this. I need to be able to sell with confidence. I need to be able to sell exactly what is the value? Why? I learned enough about marketing that there has to be a USP, and it has to stand out. Why would a CFO of a $20 million, $30 million company take my call? Why would he give me 5 minutes of time?
Yep.
So if you can't solve that problem as the CEO, then you go buy companies, because you don't want to solve that problem. You just you know how to get money, and you know how to have clients, but you don't really know how to solve the bigger problem. And it's not easy. It's hard. It takes work. But yeah, it was, anyway.
Okay. So with that being said, and we had this meeting, but another deep issue was that with the professional crisis of your job and the situational, the hardship that comes from that kind of uncertainty, you had you have family, you have bills to pay, a family to take care of. And so when we had that meeting, you were at a crossroads already,
Yeah.
and you really hadn't latched onto a direction, which
Correct.
which made sense. But I want you to talk about the aspect of the the storytelling that I took you through with hidden assets.
So, um, a big piece. So at a later meeting, we kind of broke this down, where we kind of talked about, what do you got? Like, what are you doing? What have you done? And really, uh, just creating a file of that, so you can look at it and see all that. So for me and for you, to be able to evaluate, here's all the different things that or have experienced, the good things, the bad things, all of it, and see that all in one place, and kind of formulate from there. Okay, what direction do I go now? And um, being able to um, look at those things, it was kind of like, oh, well, here's a direction to go. And I think one thing I've learned, now having started my business and all that in this time, is that you can spend a lot of time thinking about the direction, planning a bunch of stuff, but you really have no idea if all those plans are going to work or not. You have to move in a direction. And it doesn't have to be a perfect direction, and it doesn't have to be what at that moment where you go, oh, I know this is the thing I'm going to do the rest of my life. It may not be,
Right.
but sometimes you just have to move in the right direction.
Right. Take a
And
step.
how you have to take the step, and how you find out which step to take is to do you got to break it down. You got to do that audit, that personal audit. What do I already have? What's already there? And that's what we did. So then you take, right, all your other frameworks and apply the frameworks to those assets, and boom, you
Right.
create something else. So a great example of that. So one of the things that I had just started at that moment, all right, and talking about creating platform or
Right.
something, not knowing exactly what it would become, right? Uh, was this a relationship I had with an association, so the Colorado Assisted Living Association. And it's like, what can I do for them right now?
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest piece was, well, I can solve a technology problem that they're struggling with right now. So communicating via social media, communicating via webinars and training. And I can help them. That's going to give me a platform to every member of that association, the owners and managers of assisted living communities in Colorado. A good sized platform, right?
Right.
Not small, not insignificant. Um, and so that was one of the assets that I had. I had some technical expertise. I had a little bit of website stuff. I had a little bit of that stuff that I had figured out on my own. I didn't have a degree. I didn't take a class, but I knew how to do it, and they had no clue.
That's right.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
That's right.
So I was the
That's what you
one-eyed
found
man,
out.
and that's it for that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
There. And so that was one of the areas that we started. Well, I didn't know where that would end up. I still had the job at the time before that got over. And I think we should, in part 2, we should talk about being the reluctant entrepreneur and how
Exactly.
many times I had to get fired before I started my business. Let's do that in part 2. But what happened from that, it took a while for me to kind of really formulate the rest of my direction.
Sure.
But that rolled into this whole marketing business for helping these assisted living communities with their marketing, in particular online, which then within 12 to 18 months, between that and some other clients, we're doing $10,000 a month in revenue.
And that was
Just
from
from that one piece.
That's right.
Just from that one piece. that created that. And that
Amazing.
was a small little asset that I had that I had no idea. Now, I didn't know that at the moment, right? I had to go on a little bit of faith, but I understood the frameworks, I understood the principles, and just applied it and just moved in the direction and got moving. And it took time, but it happened. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. This is like, I mean, a little tiny thing. How can it be so simple to change your life? Like,
you know,
and it's not hard, right? There's a lot of mental stuff through all this journey. It wasn't like every day was like, oh, every day's fantastic. It wasn't. You know, I got the eviction notice on my house. I was delivering pizza at night. I was washing windows,
washing the windows,
you know, on the weekends. Right. So, I mean, it was not without struggle and without battle, but it was based on the idea that, hey, these are the principles. We follow the principles. We follow the frameworks. Okay. And we stick with it, and it pays off.
And you have an identity. Like something you said to me earlier, just really stuck with me when we met that first day, and I started talking about assets. You know, can you just tell us what you said, what you were saying to yourself about the whole asset thing?
What I was saying to myself was, I got no assets. Like, there is nothing here. I have nothing of value. There is nothing I have that's worth anything. Nobody is going to pay me any money for anything that I've got. I got nothing.
You know, and that's the underlying story that a lot of people who are watching this right now are probably thinking to themselves. Because for one, you know, yeah, so you have a job and you're thinking, well, there are thousands of people who do what I do. Or you have, but it's funny. If you know how to communicate, if you're a great communicator and you can supplement your experience in the communication area with one or two, you know, of a framework. What's a framework? Just a 7-step model that you've picked up from reading 3 books and combining the really good books. Go to Amazon, find the books that have the great reviews talking about communication. Read those, summarize those, or get somebody to create book summaries for you. $15. You can go on Fiverr, pay 3 people $5 to create a summary, and then you put that together with your own experience and your own perspectives and your own storytelling about communication. You have something of value to offer me right now as a small business owner who's thinking of, how do I make sure the communication issues we're having in our company don't become this thing that just it shortens my lifespan, and before it kills our profits, it's just, you know, I have one less year to live. So what you said about we're going to continue in part 2 to delve into some of the stories that I really want to talk about, like how you went back to the sales group after just a week, and your positioning was completely different, and everybody forgot all about who you were last week.
That's right.
And talk about platform and leadership acceleration.
Yes.
That's, you know, and then we'll go on to talk about some of the other things that we've done. But I really want to thank you, because on that first meeting, from that day till today, what I've done is take the storytelling and those strategies of doing a self-audit, and I've put a strategy piece behind it so that we now have what you call your catalytic project. And that word catalytic is important, because when you do your self audit and your storytelling for yourself, inner storytelling, you're going through a process that is both catharsis. You're getting unblocked. You're getting unconstipated. You're no longer a constipated storyteller. We'll move you through, in September Strategy, we'll move people through that process so that you become a catalytic storyteller, which is what you became, Pete, that day. You started telling yourself stories of the things you have done, your assets.
Right.
You know, you moved through a process of actually appreciating who you were.
Yep.
And saw that the world is actually waiting for you. So it's not just you that changed. The world changed that day. The world was waiting for you to deliver some of your genius. And you didn't realize it.
I had no idea.
You know, being distracted by a VP who thinks you've committed blasphemy because you created something. I mean, what are we talking about here? You know? But going from that and then into the strategy step is that this doesn't have to be the end all strategy. your one major purpose. No, I'm talking about just a process for finding the next step.
Right.
It's a strategic learning strategy.
Yep.
Is about, what do I do now that opens a new vista around the corner? Because what we try to do often is to see around corners. Don't try to see around corners. Take a step right now that creates the building block for the next step that you will take. And if you're following September strategy, that first step you're taking is probably going to have a momentum return on investment, a money return on investment, a motivational return on investment, and a marketing return on investment. And so that's what September, we're going to go deeper into just some of your experiences with these frameworks, and we'll have a great time.
Great.
How many minutes do we have? How much time do we have left?
We got a minute.
We got a minute. You got anything you want to say going forward, I guess, teasing the next part of this talk?
Well, so I think talking about that mind shift and that shift in perspective and how long that takes. And I think some people think it takes a long time, but I think we can talk about some examples and how fast you can turn that around. It's ridiculous. I just watch it. I in my mind, I go back and watch in amazement how the mindset shift can happen so quickly. So I think that'd be great.
Thank you, Pete. I know today Peter is a busy CEO, his own companies, his own employees, his own customers and clients. He's gracious enough to help us out at my consulting company when we need top level advice of the sort that he used to deliver for us. Busy time. I appreciate the time you've given me, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Gogo.
Thank you, man.